Greetings and love and blessings from Coast Community Church. They send them to you guys this morning. So just wanted to make sure that I got that out before I forget it. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, Gaz. Now, before we start, we do have a Bible reading because we are going to connect this all to Christmas. So if you would like to look at the screen and open your ears, we have another guest reader.
At that time, Emperor Augustus gave orders for the names of all people who need to be listed in record books. These first records were made when Quirinius was governor of Syria. Everyone had to go to their own hometown to be listed. So Joseph had to leave Nazareth in Galilee and go to Bethlehem in Judea. Long ago, Bethlehem had been King David's hometown, and Joseph went there because he was from David's family. Mary was engaged to Joseph and travelled with him to Bethlehem. She was soon going to have a baby, and while they were there, she gave birth to her firstborn son. She dressed him in baby clothes and laid him in a bed of hay, because there was no room for them in the inn.
All right. Thank you for that, reader. You can work out later on if you like. So I'm going to start with you, Diane. I'm going to start with our basics. What is your name?
Diane Mead.
Diane Mead. Okay, and your family. Who have you got in your family?
I'm married to Gary. We've been married for 35 years. I have two daughters, Alex, who's 26, and Elise, who just turned 24.
Nice. And how long have you been coming to this church?
Probably about 18 months now we've been coming.
You stole that off to Gary last week, didn't you?
I did.
18 months and one day.
I worked it out for him.
18 months and 1 week. Let's go with that.
Yeah.
And Diane, what do you do for a living?
I'm an early childhood trained teacher. I've had a very varied career. No, you don't need to hear me that much, surely. Had a very varied career in that. I've worked in early childhood settings. I've worked in schools. I've worked in family support programs, running supported playgroups, doing family support. And currently, I'm sort of winding down, hopefully to retire one of these days. Paid work. I don't intend to retire from working with children. But I'm currently working in an early childhood centre, a small Montessori centre in Chatham, where my responsibility is 4 beautiful babies every day. So I only work a couple of days a week, so it's easy.
Awesome. Thank you, Diane. Gary, your name?
My name's Gary Sullivan. Usually just call me Gaz. Most people call me Gaz. Was an affectionate name my mother used to call me, so I love Gaz.
Family?
Family. Okay, I've been married for 1977. 45 years. I've always got to go back to... Anyway, 45 years. Beg pardon?
I said, you don't get that for murder.
Well, do you know what? And I would... I probably love her more now than I ever did, if I want to be honest. So, yeah, I've been married 45 years. I have 2 children and 4 granddaughters. I never did get my little grandson that I was looking forward to fishing with, but at least I'm teaching my granddaughters to like fishing.
And Gaz, how long have you been coming to this church?
Okay, I think it was about 9:35, I think, when I came in here this morning.
Yep.
Might have been 9:36,
So you've
but
been
it was
once
somewhere
before?
around that. I've been a few other times, actually.
Okay, all right.
I've been, and I went to your sausage sizzle this year, to one of them. And I've been here for a conference, and I've been here twice before that, I think.
Okay, so you can work that out yourselves.
Yeah.
And what do or did you do for a living?
I started off, left high school, worked in the court system for 3 years, failed a few solicitor's exams and thought, well, that's probably not my area to go. Then I fell back with my dad, who was a builder, and I worked as a builder with Dad. And then I got into tech teaching when I was 28, and I had a career of 32 years teaching building and construction.
Okay. And what are you now? Oh, wait, no, don't do that yet. That's coming later. All right. So today, as I've said a couple of times, our reading has led us to looking at the arrival of Jesus. So I suppose in a paragraph, what does the word arrival evoke or bring up in you when you hear the word arrival?
That doesn't sound like a question you've written down before, was it?
It's right there.
Must have misread. Arrival, well,
Hold it up.
for me it's waiting for something to happen and then it happens and you arrive. And it's either a destination, you arrive at your destination, or something you've actually been waiting. I'm very excited at the moment because all my parcels are arriving at the post office from my online shopping for Christmas. So it's just waiting for something to come.
Yep. And Gaz, what does the word arrival evoke in you?
I think for me it's eagerly expecting something to come and waiting for it. But little side story, I was in my room yesterday morning and there's a Christmas tree in there, and under the Christmas tree there's quite a few little presents. I have two granddaughters living with me at the moment, and I happened to notice they'd been moved around a bit. I happened to notice actually that one of the little parcels had a little tear in the corner. And I think that conjures up waiting or eagerly expecting something.
Maybe not waiting.
Yeah, maybe not waiting. I think that's about right.
So have you ever awaited the arrival of something big or something important in your life?
I absolutely have. Gary and I were married. We were 23 years old and we thought we really wanted to start a family. And we tried and we tried and we tried and we waited and we waited. We waited 8 long years for the arrival of our first baby. And in the process of that waiting, we decided actually to go for an overseas adoption. There was no babies to adopt in Australia. And I always had the feeling from God, not IVF, don't go IVF. So I didn't go IVF. So we decided to adopt, and it was at one of our final adoption meetings. We had to head to Sydney, and that night before I found out that I was pregnant with our very first child.
Wow.
It was a bit of a sad story, that one, because that became an ectopic pregnancy and I lost that baby. But it was also a blessing because I kept saying to God, just let me know I can fall pregnant. Please let me know I can fall pregnant. That was one of my prayers to him, constant prayers. And I knew that I could fall pregnant. So I knew that one wasn't meant to be. But God just gave me this amazing sense of peace through that whole process. And then a few months later, I found out I was pregnant again with our Alex.
Wow.
So that was a long awaiting.
Yeah. And I don't know if you can even describe it. How did you respond to the actual arrival of Alex?
Oh, it was just the most amazing feeling to hold that baby and to see that baby for real. Like, you know them when they're in your womb, you can feel them and you talk to them and you know them, but just to actually hold her, that was just the most incredible experience. So.
Thanks, Diane. Gary, have you ever awaited the arrival of something big or important in your life?
Yeah, quite a few times. I think it's part of life's journey that we look forward to certain events or things that are coming up. And just like Diane, obviously getting married, waiting to be married, waiting to have kids. But there's also something, if I can just say it really quickly, which was a bit strange for me. My first grandchild, for some reason or other, I wasn't eagerly waiting for this grandchild, and I have absolutely no idea. And I'm thinking to myself, everybody's saying, oh, you must be excited. Yeah. I wished I was, but I wasn't. But I must tell you that the arrival of that baby, I was there straight after the baby was born. I picked that baby up in my hands, changed like that. So that arrival, even though I didn't feel like I wanted to feel or thought I should feel, at that instant when it was actually reality, it totally changed for me, and the arrival of that baby was beautiful. So, yeah.
And I wonder if arrival might be different for males and females. And I'm not just talking about babies. Obviously for babies, I think there's probably a difference, but even just, I'm broad brush stroking here. I wonder if guys are kind of a bit more, a bit like Thomas, I'll be excited when it's here. Whereas females tend to, again, I'm I'm just generalising here, tend to go, this is going to be so great when it's here.
Yeah, careful, brother. Just be careful.
That's why I'm on the hard chair. Just going to run away quickly. So what do you guys do for fun, your free time? If you had a free afternoon, no consequences, no financial issues, what would you do for that afternoon?
Yeah, I love swimming, gardening, cooking, crafting, just any of those sorts of things. I don't know, and it just whatever takes me on the time. If it's a beautiful sunny day, let's go for a swim, or
Yep.
we enjoy kayaking. Gary and I finally got our kayaks out again and did a bit of kayaking, and yeah, there's just lots to do. And we've got a farm, so there's always gardens to play in and animals to care for and things to do.
Yep. And then how does the arrival of Jesus, so we just talked about the arrival and the feelings it evokes in us, but how does the arrival, or does the arrival of Jesus affect your free time, your fun time, when you're doing those things, kayaking? Is there a moment where you go, this because of Jesus?
I guess I can enjoy that freedom to do things because Jesus is here. And just when I'm out doing that, you are, like John said this morning, you're seeing Jesus in all his glory, like outdoor. Like I love being outdoors to do all my work and play, and you get to see Jesus around you. You see him in the ocean, you see him in the sky, you see him in the trees, in the paddocks, in the gardens. So I guess it's a time for me where I can actually be quiet with Jesus when I'm doing those activities too. Like it's a time of worship, a time of praise, because you're just present with him in that. And your mind's not having to be busy like it is at work. When you're at work, you don't have all that time. I mean, I must say, when I'm working, I'm constantly praying and praying for what I'm doing and praying for the children that I'm with, or please don't let that happen. God, please protect that child from this, or please calm that child down. And so I am talking to him, but it's more me wanting something from him, whereas when I'm in my leisure, I can actually just enjoy being with him.
Thanks, Diana. Gaz, how would you spend a free afternoon?
I think you could probably guess. It would be fishing, and it would probably be barramundi fishing up in North Queensland. I sort of seem to end up there at least once every year on a trip with my brothers. So, yeah, it's probably what I enjoy most out of all the types of fishing I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
And does the arrival of Jesus affect that time when you're doing it?
There's two ways of looking at that question, I suppose. Yeah, probably I don't, because it's pretty full on. I don't get to spend as much time as I'd like with the Lord. Certainly, I'll be honest and I'll say things, to the Lord, but I don't have that rhythm of getting up in the morning, getting a black coffee first up, double shot by the way, and then going and reading the scriptures. But when I'm away, it seems to be something happening all the time, and so really it sort of it actually takes away something of the journey, of my rhythm of journey with Christ. But there's another thing too, and it's when I first was married, to the detriment probably of my wife and my kids, I fished far too hard. I did far more fishing, which actually left quite a load on my wife and my kids, and that wasn't a good thing. So as I've and I've got a long way to go, but as I've got along the journey a bit further, I've recognised that as something I needed to change in my life. And so as far as fishing goes, my priority most of the time now will be something I feel that God is laying on my heart. And sometimes you think, man, I'd love to do that trip, but no, I can't. Yeah. And so, but I want to be there. That's where I want to be.
Yeah.
And there's always this battle between the flesh and the spirit, Flesh says, get out there, you'll have a ball, And the spirit says, I've got this for you. I'd love you to do this. Long term, this is going to be better for you. So, yeah, so.
Would you say that when you do get to go, because you've just come back from a fishing trip with your brothers?
I did, yes.
Would you feel like? Would you say that you feel like you're prompted or encouraged at certain times to go and enjoy that leisure time by the Spirit?
Yeah. Look, I've had a bit of a tough journey, if I want to be totally honest, this year. My daughter's marriage broke up about 12 months ago, and that was a domestic violence, and so she's living with us with two kids, and So everything has changed, and I've struggled a bit with that through the year. What was the question again? Because I know I'm going somewhere. I know where I'm going.
Do you feel like the Spirit releases you to go and do those fun activities, to go on those trips?
Yep. So, one thing that some good advice I had from another number of people is you need respite, Gaz. And the way you get respite from this sort of a situation is to actually go and do something that, whether it's go down the local coffee shop, have a coffee and read a paper, or whether it's go and have a fish, go and hang out with a few guys, walk along the beach, whatever it is, we all need to have those things. Because the other thing that I didn't tell you is I've got a wife who's been very sick with chronic fatigue for over 4.5 years now. And we're looking maybe sometimes at 4 or 5 days. It was 6 days in a row before yesterday that she'd been in bed. She doesn't get out of bed. And so that's another tough thing happening at the moment as well. But you know what? I can still thank God because I know that somewhere God's working all things out for good. And so I can give thanks even in that.
Thanks, guys. We're just going to touch on a couple of the parts of the reading, which will be on the screen in a moment. It's a good one, isn't it? It's a good one. All right, so the first part is everyone had to go to their hometown to be listed. So Joseph had to leave Nazareth in Galilee and go to Bethlehem in Judea. So this was an inconvenience for Mary and Joseph, right? She's heavily pregnant. And it's not a great idea to jump on a donkey and go for, I've heard stories of people, we're going to induce this labour, let's get on the speed bumps, She's on a donkey, right? Not the most leisurely ride. They had to go there, and their lives were just inconvenienced because of this thing they had to do. So my question is, I'll start with you, Diane. There's two parts to this, but I'm happy to ask the second question again. Have you ever been inconvenienced in a big way? And the second part is, has Jesus ever put that inconvenience in perspective for you later on?
I don't think I've ever been inconvenienced like Mary and Joseph. I mean, I still have to go and vote, but that's thankfully at my local school and things like that, and it is an annoyance. I was sort of thinking about that question during the week, and I thought, there's so many inconveniences in my life if I look at it from my perspective. So if I wanted to be all about me, then I'd probably be walking a different pathway and doing things very differently. But I'm very happy to be, I'm not happy to be inconvenienced. I still grumble an awful lot under my breath. I don't necessarily say it out loud. God's still working in there. But I just think, I often hand it to God, or I just think, okay, God, you've got a purpose in this. So I just go along with it generally. As I said, not always willingly, but I do go along. And I find in those times of inconvenience, often there's many blessings. There's many wonderful things that happen. Might be only small things, but there's lots of joy found in it. So,
Yeah, that's good. You answered both there. Well done. So, Gaz, have you ever been inconvenienced in a big way for either having to do something in the world or for God? And has that inconvenience been put in perspective for you later on?
Yeah, it actually continues on from what I was just saying a moment ago about sometimes there's things I want to do, but I know that that's not the right thing to do. I know that God's actually challenging me to do something else. And I'll give you a small example. It's not a big inconvenience, but it's a small example of the fact that, anyway, I'll get into it. My wife, I think 3 or 4 days ago, said to me, you need to go and visit John. Now, John is a fishing mate of mine. I was 18, he was 45 when we met in the courthouse. He was a child welfare officer and he had a fishing mag under his arm. So you can imagine what happened. We become great mates, fantastic mates, did lots of trips together, fished outside, catching tuna, snapper, inside, trout fishing, did all those sorts of things. And we both, later on as our journey progressed, he became a Christian and I became a Christian as well. But the thing now is John's 97 now and he's in a nursing home. And for some reason or other, and this is my problem, I struggle when I go to nursing homes. I don't feel comfortable in nursing homes. I really struggle. So that's one of my weaknesses. And so I guess hence I don't go and visit John as much as I should. He's got 3 kids and they're all in different states and he never sees them. He has very few people that visit him, and I'll ring him up because that's easier. But Chris said, you need to go and visit him, and she was 100% right. So I went and visited him the other morning, took him a coffee, and it was an inconvenience. I had that much I was trying to get fitted in before I came up here. But you know what? I sat down with John and I thought, I'm in the right place. This is a God moment. And John said to me, every night he prays that God will take him. He said, I've got a life that's not doing anything. And so we had a bit of a chat about that. I said, John, I just saw your walking frame. Over there in your walking frame is a Bible. As you're walking around, I imagine people probably seeing that. You don't know what effect that's having. I said, someone you smile at when you go down to one of your meals, you don't know what effect that's having. I said, God plants seeds, and obviously if you're 97, he's still got your hair, then maybe there's something that you're still able to do. And anyway, we had... Sorry, am I going too long?
No.
Oh, great, good.
Not yet.
Okay, when you...
I've got someone keeping
I respond to this.
I can tell.
Yeah, thanks, mate. But yeah, and we had some time together just praying and stuff like that. Well, you know, that afternoon, John rang me up because like some of the things he said, we don't never have any spiritual conversation. There's no one here who wants to talk about the Lord. And he rang me up that afternoon twice, and I missed the call both times. And I rang him back. He said, I was wanting to ask you a Bible reference. My eyes aren't good enough. He said, I got asked questions about some of the things I said. He said, I'm so excited. And so, I mean, that's actually God confirming to me you did what was right at that time.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Even though it was a pain to you.
Yeah, even though it wasn't really a pain, inconvenience,
Yeah.
I suppose. And I mean, it's once again, it's a battle of the flesh, what I want to do, and the battle of what God's saying I want you to do. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Gaz. The next reading... Oops, sorry, I'm going to stop touching this thing. Put it down, Brett. All right. There we go. So this is Mary. She was soon going to have a baby, and while they were there, she gave birth to her firstborn son. So as people that have both had children, we touched on this a little bit, so you don't have to take forever with it, but when you first gave birth to or held your child or children, can you remember any hopes and dreams that you had for them? I'll start with that question. Can you remember any hopes or dreams that you had for them?
I guess like all Christian parents, you're so grateful and you're so thankful to God, and you want that child to belong to God. You want them to grow up knowing, loving their Heavenly Father.
Yeah.
I guess that was the main hope. And you just want them to be happy, I guess, or any parent, you want your child to be happy.
Cool. Thanks, Diane. Gaz, same for you. Did you have any hopes and dreams when you held your child for the first time?
Yeah. It was interesting in some ways because you sort of suddenly you got this kid, you think, truth, that's ours. I didn't do a course. I must have missed the course. They haven't taught me what I got to do. So there's a little bit of panic. But look, honestly, for my kids, I used to say to them, they weren't the brightest at school. I said, I don't care if you're not the brightest at school. I said, I don't care if you don't go for the greatest jobs. I said, what I do care about is 2 things. I want you to always do your best. Give it your best. That's all I ask, whatever that is. And I said, the other thing is I want you to be there. What do you mean, Dad? Well, think long term. I said, I want you to be in heaven with me. I said, they're the 2 things I want for you in your life. So, so my aspirations for them were probably a lot simpler than a lot of people have, you know, but that's what I wanted out of my kids.
Sure. And just to go on from that, how did the arrival of these children change your life? I know there's so many people out there that have got kids, right? Just going, yeah. How long you got?
Well, because it took 8 long years, Gary and I had been married then like for 8 or 9 years, and we used to like just Gary and I doing things together, our own company, and being able to do what we wanted to do when we wanted to do it. And we had 2 incomes coming in, we were doing well. And then with along babies come along, well, one wage stopped. I gave up work for 10 years, and just all of a sudden this little being just took up all our lives. We didn't have a life anymore. It was all about them and their needs, not about our needs anymore.
Yeah, no, that's good. I hear.
Ditto.
Ditto, great.
I know exactly what she's saying. I mean, the short wheelbase 4-wheel drive disappeared, and suddenly it wasn't about me anymore and us.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
about the kids, you know.
Yeah.
And I know I could have done it better, but yeah.
Yeah, that's good. And our last reading is she dressed him in baby clothes. This is after he was born. She dressed him in baby clothes and laid him on a bed of hay because there was no room for them in the inn. So they were pushed out. There was no room for them, unlike our kid story suggested today. Have you ever felt like you've been put out the back? Have you ever felt like you've been pushed out for whatever reason and had to make do with what was available to you at the time? Whoever wants to go with that one.
Oh, you can go first this time. if you like.
Yeah.
I need to think.
Thanks. I think it was Paul who said, I have learned how to live with nothing, and I have learned how to live with plenty. I have learned how to be content. I love that passage. I can't say I'm there, but I'm trying to learn to be content. Whether I have a lot, whether I have little, whether I'm pushed out the back, whether things are not what I want, that's my aim, to learn to be content and to just trust God and just sort of say, God, I do trust you. You know, I'm not seeing what I want at all, but I know that you're seeing a lot more than I'm seeing, and I know that you've got my heart in your hands. You care about me. You care about what's happening in my life. So that's my aim. I'm not there, all right? But that's my aim.
Yep, cool.
And I guess for me too, it's my focus is on God, and those things sometimes get in the way because it impacts me and how I feel about me. But then all I have to do is remember how God sees me and how God feels about me, and I'm so important to Him. So that puts all that frustration of being pushed aside away, because I know no matter what's happening around me here, I'm His child and I'm always up front with Him.
Yeah.
So,
No, that's good.
I don't have to feel put aside, because I'm never put aside from God.
Who liked those answers? So I just want to... I'm going to touch on one little thing here. So I'm thinking of your story, Gaz. There's the story that you tell of how you came to end up doing recharge with your fishing rods and the challenge that you got there. And how, I suppose the question from that is, and you can share that however you'd like to share that, or if you don't want to, that's fine, but has the arrival, and you can answer this question as well, if you're thinking of a moment that you might have felt pushed out, has the arrival of Jesus in your life made that moment that you've felt pushed to the side or whatever special or transformative or a turning point in your life? You want to start with your fishing story first? Not your fishing story, your rod story.
Why the rod story? I don't
I
know.
love it. I love the rod story.
That shows another one of my problems.
That's
But
probably
look,
why I love it.
back in 2016, I got a good friend who we were having a deep and meaningful one day, and he said, Gaz, I think you should do this. And he handed me a brochure. It was a Navigate course called Recharge. And John and Mary Ann were the ones who were leading that. And I thought, oh, yeah. And I sort of read it, and I thought, oh, I love the outcomes. Yeah, if I could get that, that'd be good. But I want to do it the easy way. There was 12 months of study, 12 months of going back and doing 2 units of study. And there was about 5, I think, times we got together throughout the year for up to about 5 or 6 days. So there was quite a commitment involved, and there was also a financial commitment. Anyway, this friend didn't go away. He kept saying, "You been praying about it, Gaz?" And I said, "Oh, not really." And he said, "We should be." And so anyway, I'd fire a couple of prayers off and then think, "Oh, I've prayed about it now." And then he'd ask me again, "Gaz, time's getting away. You need to probably start thinking seriously about that course." And I said, "Yeah, I have." And, no, I don't think so. I don't think I want to do it. He said, "Why not?" And I said, "Oh, it costs a fair bit of money, And he said, well, and this guy didn't have much money. I mean, he hadn't drawn many wages for a long time. And he said, "Can I pay for you?" That hit me fair in the stomach pretty hard. But anyway, being such a stubborn guy, I said, "I don't know, I'll think about it." And a little bit later on that week, and this is where I'm coming to the rods bit, the minister or the pastor from the church I was at knew that I was thinking about doing the course, and he come round to my place, and I'm down the back shed. I don't know what I was doing, but
Looking at your rods.
yeah, probably something like that. But anyway, he said, "Oh, you're thinking about doing the course?" And I said, "Oh, not really. I don't think so. I think it costs too much money." And he said, And he just glanced over on the wall where I had a number of fishing rods hanging up, untold amount of fishing rods hanging up. And he said, "What are they worth?" And I was hit again, fair in the solar plexus. I mean, because some of those rods were worth nearly $1,000 each. And I sort of thought, oh, that's really hit me hard. And so I decided to at least go down and do the information day. I went down, did the information day, met John and Mary Ann. I thought, oh, they're really nice. And then I still thought, nah, I don't want to do all this study. And Mary Ann said, "I think you should do this course. You're the sort of person what Mary Ann's like." So then I had two people on my case. And but anyway, look, I ended up doing it. And to be totally honest, it was a huge change in my life over that year. That 12 months was the most significant changes took place in my life more than the 40 years before that I'd been a Christian. So it was well worth that commitment, that time. And I thank God that these people did not give up on me, that they just kept pushing me to go and do it, Gaz, go and do it, because it has made such a huge difference to my walk with the Lord.
Thanks, Gaz. Diane, did you have anything to add around that moment? Again, you don't have to share the moment, but
Oh, no, I'm happy to share the moment. I grew up in a Christian home with loving Christian parents, went to church, thought I understood God, but I didn't, because growing up I thought you had to be good and had to be good enough. And I tried so hard to be good and I kept failing. So as a teenager I thought, oh, this is too hard, I'm just going to try a different way. So I just went off on my own way, found non-Christian friends and partied and did all the things that were not the right things to do, searching for something, and never found it, of course, at that time. Thankfully, God knew me and was looking after me and led me to a workplace with a Christian girl who dragged me along. She was a very, very persuasive person too, and dragged me along to Bible studies and things. And I can just remember being there, and somebody not posed the question, but actually put out the theory that you're either for God or you're against God. There's no sitting on the fence. There's no middle ground. There's only two camps. And I realised at that time, well, I'm actually in the against God camp, and that's really not where I wanted to be. I wanted to be in the for God camp. So I prayed very hard about it, and I found my way back to God, or God drew me back to him. He came looking for me. And I remember a sermon that Brett did a while back, and it was around like, what would your life be without Jesus? And so the arrival of Jesus has meant everything to me, because without Jesus and without that pathway, I would have been totally lost. If he hadn't come and found me and brought me back into his fold, my life would be very different now, and it would be very unhappy, very miserable life. So I'm just so grateful that Jesus did arrive. And,
Thanks,
yeah.
Diane. So this is going to be the last question last two questions in one. You've kind of both already touched on it, but what does the arrival of Jesus do or inspire in you, or has it changed your life? And do you have any other comments that you want to put out there?
Yeah, well, I was just remembering too, a little bit later on after I came back, I still had that feeling of, I'm really struggling, I'm never going to be good enough. And I went to church, an Anglican church up at Laurelton, and I was chatting to the pastor's wife there, and the subject came on about grace. And I don't know if I said to her, I'm never going to be good enough, I can't get this, but she said, don't you understand grace? And I hadn't. I'd never understood grace, that I don't have to be good enough. I'm never, ever going to be good enough. No matter what I do, I can't do it. I'm never going to be good enough. It's only because Jesus died for me, and if I accept that gift and that grace, then I am free, I'm saved. It's nothing at all that I can do. And that was just the most freeing moment of all, because I don't have to be good enough. I don't have to work at this. I'm saved, I'm free. And that to me was life-changing. So,
Thanks, Diane.
100%.
yeah.
Fully agree. Look, the arrival of Jesus has been unbelievable. I guess as a young guy, I grew up in a Christian home, and I kind of thought, when I get old, a little bit before I die, I'll just slide into the base, make a decision for the Lord, and I'm going to live up till then. But I'm so glad that things didn't work out the way I wanted, and God put his hand on me. And look, it's just, I guess as a kid, I was probably scared of hell more than I was wanting to walk with Jesus. And the reality is real. But but once you get to know Jesus, there's nothing better. Honestly, nothing. And, there's so many things I enjoy in life, but those intimate moments you have with God and with Jesus, you hang on to them, you remember them, and they're the things that spur you on. You think, wow, one day I've got this forever with him. This life is just our apprenticeship, honestly. This is getting ready for the main game. This is getting ready for what Jesus and God created us for and to be in the first place, to actually be in relationship with him forever. So I kind of see this life now as the apprenticeship, and Jesus is the goal, and love it.
Awesome. Well, give these guys a round of applause. Thank you guys for being... Hold on. I'm going to pray first. Come on, we're a church.
We pray here, do we?
So, guys, thank you for sharing vulnerably with the church. And we'll pray for you as we go into the week. God, I want to say thank you for Gaz and Diane both coming and opening themselves to us as a community and to you, and being willing to share their stories. And God, I just pray that we can take these stories into our week, and again, remember how important it is that you have arrived, that you came as a baby, and how that's just changed everything. And so, God, as we go again through this Christmas month, help us to see how the arrival of you in human form changes our lives, impacts our lives, and puts us on the path to spending eternity with you. In Jesus' name, amen.